Hi, my friends. My name is Brian. I'd like you to picture something simple. Imagine this. Every morning, the moment you step outside your front door, there's a heavy wallet in your pocket. It's filled with pure gold. But this isn't just metal you could take to a pawn shop. This gold is your life force. It's your children's health. It's your success in business. It's peace inside your family. Now imagine something else. You walk toward the elevator. You run into a neighbor, a coworker by the office coffee machine, or just someone you know on the street. They casually ask the most ordinary, polite question, and without even noticing it, you pull out that wallet and give away half your gold, just like that, for nothing. Then evening comes. You're sitting in your kitchen, completely drained, trying to understand why a deal collapsed at the very last moment. Why a small misunderstanding suddenly turned into a fight with your partner. You think it's just a bad streak. No, my friends, my grandfather was a very wise man. He used to tell me the human mouth is a gate. If you open it too wide, all your warmth flies out and cold wind rushes in. He taught me that we give away our own strength when we answer simple questions the wrong way. Today I want to share what he taught me. We'll talk about why being too open with strangers is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make in life. I'll explain why the casual conversation, "How are things?" is often a trap, and how my grandfather showed me how to walk around it, so luck stays in your home. Listen carefully. Everything I'm about to tell you works, but there's one thing that cancels all of it. Even if you stay silent like a fish, at the very end, I'll tell you about a time bomb you're carrying right now in your pocket or bag. It's a mistake we repeat every single day, and it's exactly what blocks big money and real happiness from coming into your life. Technique 1. Our first technique is simple. Never, under any circumstances, give exact numbers to outsiders. We call this the principle of blurred numbers. Here's something important to understand. We live in a world where people love counting other people's lives. When a coworker or acquaintance asks, "How much did you pay for that car? How much did your renovation cost? What's your salary these days?" They're not interested in mathematics. They don't actually care about the number. They're trying to place you on their internal scale. It's a comparison test, and the moment you give an exact amount, you hand them an access code to your life. You become a target. Let me show you how this works. If the number sounds small to them, they immediately devalue you. "Oh, that's cheap, probably poor quality." Your joy gets poisoned by their quiet contempt. But if the number sounds large, you instantly wake up envy. They think, "Where did he get that kind of money? He must have overpaid. Better he'd given it to me." A precise figure turns on the calculator in someone else's head. They start estimating how much they could borrow from you, or they start getting angry that you have something they don't. You create tension with your own hands, where there was none before. Blurred numbers keep you invisible to other people's envy. You don't give them a hook they can hang you on. My grandfather was a man of the old school, with incredible practical wisdom. He understood the value of silence. I clearly remember one moment from my youth that became a lifelong lesson. My grandfather had just closed a very successful deal. He bought a beautiful piece of fabric for a suit, extremely expensive for those days. We were walking down the street together. He was in a great mood. The fabric was wrapped neatly under his arm. And then we ran into our neighbor, Mark. Mark wasn't a bad person, but he had a long tongue and jealous eyes. He noticed the bundle right away. He lit up, and he asked directly, "Oh, Arthur, I see you got English wool. Beautiful. So how much did you pay for something like that?" I was young and foolish. I was already about to proudly shout the price, just to show how well we were doing. But my grandfather gently squeezed my shoulder. He looked Mark straight in the eyes, and he answered with a warm smile, "You know, I got it for a very fair price, less than what they were asking at the market. but just enough that I won't feel ashamed wearing it." Mark froze. He got an answer, but no number. He didn't know whether to envy us or laugh at us. He stood there for a second. He hesitated, and then he walked away with nothing. Later, my grandfather said to me, "Listen carefully. The moment you give them a number, they mentally take ownership of your purchase. They'll discuss it over dinner. But as long as they don't know the number, the thing belongs only to you. Leave them in the fog. Let them guess. Your luck doesn't like bookkeeping." Technique 2. Listen carefully. Because what I'm about to say goes against almost everything we're taught growing up, and against everything modern success coaches preach online. We're always told, strive for success, be first, stand on the podium, let everyone see your victory. But nobody tells us something important. The podium is the loneliest and most exposed place in the world. Technique number 2 is called cushioning success. It's the art of neutralizing other people's envy before it hardens into a stone thrown into your garden. Let's look at what happens inside people when you bring them good news. You get promoted. You buy a bigger home. Your child wins a prestigious competition. You're flying on happiness. You're bursting inside. You want to share it. You walk into a room and tell your friends or coworkers. They smile. They say, "Congratulations." But if you look closely, really closely, you'll see a shadow behind their eyes. A split second of pain. Not because they're bad people. Not because they don't care about you. But because your success becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, they see their own failures. Your new position reminds them they've been stuck in the same place for 5 years. Your new home reminds them of their cramped kitchen and mortgage. This happens unconsciously, and in that moment, tension appears between you. That's what people call bad energy. The evil eye, envy, call it whatever you want. If you don't discharge that tension, it will come back to you. Coworkers will start whispering behind your back. They'll sabotage you in small ways. Friends will call less often. Relatives will suddenly remember old resentments. Cushioning success is a safety technique. It grounds that emotional electric shock. So how does it work? Very simply. Every time you share good news, you immediately add a small downside in the same breath. You show the price you're paying for that success. You slightly dim your own shine so it doesn't blind others. People can forgive your money if they know you don't sleep at night and take blood pressure pills. People can forgive your talented children if they hear those kids are rebellious and rude at home. People forgive success only when they see that it costs you something. That calms their inner beast. They think, okay, he's a boss now, but he's got stomach ulcers from stress. No thanks. I'd rather stay an ordinary employee and keep my health. Balance is restored. Envy turns into sympathy, or at least into neutral indifference. And that's exactly what we need. We need quiet around our happiness. Now let me tell you a story. This happened many years ago, when I was still young and inexperienced. My grandfather, may his memory be blessed, was friends with a man named Robert. Robert was loud, generous, and a bit naive. All his life, he dreamed of building a house outside the city, a real family home, a place where everyone could gather. And one day, his dream came true. He worked like an ox, saved money, and finally built himself a large house. 2 floors, a veranda, a garden. By the standards of those days, it was a palace. Of course, once the finishing was done, Robert decided to throw a huge housewarming party. He invited everyone, family, friends, business partners, even neighbors he barely knew. When my grandfather heard about it, he shook his head and said, "Let's go early. We need to save Robert. Otherwise, this celebration will turn into a funeral for his peaceful life." We arrived an hour before the guests. Robert was glowing like polished copper. He ran from room to room, rubbing his hands, saying, "They're all going to die of envy. I'll show them how people should live." "Did you see this parquet?" Solid oak. My grandfather pulled him aside, sat him down, and spoke sharply, the way he knew how. Robert, listen to me. If you start showing off this parquet and these chandeliers, you'll make enemies for life. Tomorrow the tax office will come. The day after, neighbors will poison your dog. And a month later, someone will break in. Is that what you want? Robert went pale. So what should I do? Cancel the party? No, my grandfather said. Let them come. But make sure they leave not with envy, but with the feeling that life in this palace isn't that sweet. You need to complain, Robert. You need to complain like you've never complained before. The guests arrived. They walked around with open mouths, touching expensive furniture, examining the walls. Heavy silence hung in the air, that sticky envy. Then Robert began his performance. When someone praised the huge living room, Robert sighed deeply, grabbed his lower back, and said loudly, "Thank you, but if only you knew how much effort it takes to clean all this. My wife's hands are falling off. We argue every day about dust. I already regret making it so big. Should have built smaller. Back in our old apartment we lived peacefully. Here we're losing each other. It echoes, it feels cold. Winter heating will ruin me financially." Guests exchanged glances. Some smirked. Then someone admired the garden. Robert immediately continued, "Beautiful, right? Except moles destroyed everything. I'm exhausted. And the mosquitoes here, you have no idea. Real monsters. You can't even sit on the terrace in the evening. They eat you alive. I'm already thinking of selling this whole thing and moving back to the city." I sat in the corner and watched people's faces. It was incredible. At the beginning of the evening, they had tight smiles and cold eyes. By the end, they were relaxed. They looked at Robert with gentle condescension. One neighbor patted him on the shoulder and said, "Yeah, Robert, big house, big problems. My 2-bedroom is easier. 10 minutes with a vacuum and I'm on the couch. Hang in there, brother." They left full, satisfied, and most importantly, not envious. They carried home one thought. Sure, Robert lives richly, but his headaches are through the roof. Good thing I'm not in his place. When the last guest left, Robert winked at me and said to my grandfather, "You were right, old fox. They didn't curse my house. They pitied it." Robert lived in that home happily for another 30 years, and nobody ever spoke badly about him. That's how cushioning works. Don't be afraid to downplay yourself. Don't be afraid to look tired or burdened with problems. That's the small price, the social tax. You pay it for the right to be successful and happy. Remember, if you raise all sails at once, someone else's storm will flip your ship. Technique 3. Saying no without excuses. Now, let's talk about a condition that affects about 90% of polite, well-mannered people. It's called the need to be convenient, the need to be liked, the fear of disappointing others. Let's talk about how we say the word no, and why our no so often sounds like an invitation to wipe their feet on us. Imagine this. Someone asks you for something you don't want to give. A friend asks to borrow money. A manager asks you to work on your day off. Relatives invite themselves over when you're already exhausted. What does the average person do? They say no. But immediately, in the very same second, they attach an explanation. I can't lend you money because we're doing renovations. I can't work Saturday because I promised my mother I'd help her. We can't host you because the kids are sick. You think you're being polite. You think you're softening the refusal. But in reality, you're committing a crime against yourself. Here's what really happens. The moment you say because, you step into the role of the guilty one. You're basically saying, forgive me for not serving you. I have a valid excuse. I have paperwork. You place yourself below the person asking. You give them the right to decide whether your reason is good enough. And this is the most dangerous part. An explanation opens the door to manipulation. You say, I can't lend money because of renovations. And the manipulator replies, "Come on, renovations can wait a week. I really need it." You say, "I can't work Saturday because I'm taking my mother somewhere." And your boss says, "Call her a taxi. The company will pay. Come in." Your explanation is not a shield. It's a target. You hand them something they can attack, and then you're trapped. Either you invent a new lie, or you give in. Both destroy your self-respect, and believe me, the other person stops respecting you too. They feel your weakness. They feel that you're slippery, that you're lying to avoid conflict. Technique number 3 is called saying no without excuses, or as my grandfather used to say, the royal refusal. It takes courage, but it gives enormous freedom. The essence is simple. No is a complete sentence. It doesn't need support. It doesn't need justification. You have the right to refuse simply because you don't want to, because it's your money, your time, your life. When you calmly say, "I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me right now," and then you stop talking, something interesting happens. You become a wall. The other person runs into it. There's nothing to grab onto. They can't argue with renovations. They can't negotiate your mother, because you never mentioned them. You simply stated a fact. This creates unintentional respect. People sense strength, the strength of someone who knows their boundaries. Now let me tell you a story. There was a relative of ours named Daniel. Everyone called him Danny. Danny was a wonderful person, a golden man. He could fix watches, solder pots, assemble electronics from scraps, a real master of all trades. But Danny had one problem. He couldn't say no, like an old couch, always available. Danny owned a small country house by the river, a quiet place, where he dreamed of resting, fishing, listening to birds. But every summer, that house turned into a public hallway. Relatives, friends of friends, neighbors, everyone believed it was their right to invite themselves. "Danny," they'd call, "the weather's great. We're coming over for a barbecue. We'll bring the meat. You provide the space." Danny hated these gatherings. They drained him. He wanted silence, but he couldn't say no, so he lied. Every Thursday, he started sweating over the phone. "Oh, this weekend won't work," he'd say nervously. "The roof is leaking. I'll be melting tar. Terrible smell." "No problem," the guest replied cheerfully. "We'll help." Danny panicked and invented another lie. "Well, my aunt just arrived. She's contagious." "We already had that," they said. "No worries." It was hell. Danny got tangled in his own lies. One time he told one group he was on a business trip, but secretly went to the house anyway, and of course, they decided to check. They arrived without warning, and there was Danny hiding behind a gooseberry bush. They shouted, "Danny, are you hiding from friends? You lied to us. We came with open hearts, and you're a miser?" Danny felt like nothing. He owned the house, but behaved like a thief. After that, he came to my grandfather completely broken. "I'll sell the house," Danny said. "I can't live like this. Either I'm a slave to guests, or I'm a liar." My grandfather poured him tea, looked at him calmly, and said, "You're not selling the house. You're selling your dignity. Cheap. You think you're afraid of offending them? No. You're afraid they'll think you're a bad person. You're trying to buy their love with convenience. That's an expensive product, Danny. You can't afford it." "So what do I do?" Danny asked. "Tell them to get lost?" "Why curse?" my grandfather said. "Only the weak shout. The strong speak quietly. The next time they call, you say one sentence." Danny grabbed a piece of paper. My grandfather said, "Unfortunately, this weekend doesn't work for me." "That's it?" Danny asked. "And if they ask why?" "That's the moment of truth," my grandfather said. "If they ask why, you answer, 'Because I have other plans,' and then you stop talking. Even if your plans are lying on the couch and staring at the ceiling, they're still your plans." Friday came. The phone rang. An insistent coworker. "Danny, we're on our way. Get ready." Danny turned pale. His hand shook. He looked at the note, took a breath. Hi, no, this weekend doesn't work for me. Silence. The man wasn't used to this. What do you mean it doesn't work? Are you busy? What happened? Danny's tongue itched to mention back pain or aliens, but he remembered my grandfather's eyes. I already said it doesn't work for me, Danny said calmly. I have other plans. Sorry, not this time. And he hung up. Danny sat there, waiting for disaster. But the sky didn't fall. That weekend, for the first time in 5 years, Danny rested alone. Some people disappeared, those who wanted the house. Not Danny, but the real ones stayed. And something interesting happened. They started calling differently. Danny, hi. Do you have the desire and the opportunity to see us? They respected his space because he finally respected it himself. Remember this, your explanations are blood. Sharks smell blood. Stop bleeding. Your no should be dry, firm, and polite. Only then do you become the owner of your life, not a servant of other people's desires. Technique 4. The gray rock. In everyone's life, there are people who drain you. This isn't mysticism, it's psychology. You know them. It might be your constantly dissatisfied mother-in-law, a toxic boss, a jealous friend, or a neighbor who lives on gossip. These people feed on your emotions. It doesn't matter which ones. Anger, tears, defensiveness, even loud happiness. Their goal is simple, to knock you out of balance, to break your armor, to make you react. When someone like that asks, "So? When are you finally going to lose weight? Or is your husband supposed to leave first?" They're not worried about your health. They want to see your face flush, your lips tremble. They want you to start justifying yourself or snapping back. That's the moment they feed. If you argue, you lose. If you cry, you lose. If you try to prove anything, you lose twice. You hand them the keys to your emotional state. The gray rock technique teaches you how to become invisible in plain sight. Imagine a gray stone on the side of the road. It lies in the dust. It's boring, cold, unremarkable. Do you want to kick it? No. You'll hurt your foot. Do you want to take it home? Why would you? Do you want to argue with it? That would be ridiculous. You just walk past it. Your task with toxic people is to become that stone, the dullest person in the room, someone who gives no emotional reaction at all. They try to poke you, and you answer flatly, "Maybe? I see. All right." They try to pull you into a scandal, and you say, "I hear you." They ask personal questions with a sting, and you shrug. Everything's the same. The point is not silence. Silence can look like resentment, and resentment is still an emotion. The point is to make your answers tasteless. The vampire bites, and there's no blood, only dry sand. They bite once, twice, break a tooth, and go look for another victim. You stay intact. You don't waste a single gram of energy. This takes practice. Inside, everything will be boiling. You'll want to put the person in their place. But believe me, the best punishment for a provocateur is your complete indifference. Let me tell you a story. We knew a woman named Kate. Kate was kind, warm, good as fresh bread, but she had one problem. Her mother-in-law, Linda. Linda wasn't a woman, she was a general. She didn't speak, she issued orders, and more than anything, Linda loved educating Kate. Every family dinner turned into a public execution. Linda could loudly ask, in front of everyone, "Kate, why is this soup so thin? Are you saving money on my son? Or did you just forget to put meat in it?" Or, "Kate, dear, why did you wear that dress? It makes you look like a lampshade I threw away in the 70s. Every time Kate fell into the trap. She blushed. Her eyes filled with tears. She started explaining herself. "But Mom, this is a modern style." "But Mom, it's a special recipe." And Linda blossomed. Her cheeks turned rosy. She felt her power. She became the center of attention. She fed on her daughter-in-law's suffering and lived peacefully until the next Saturday. One day, Kate came to us in tears. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "She's destroying me with her care. I can't be rude to her. She's criticizing me for my own good." I told her, "Kate, stop feeding the dragon. Become a rock." We rehearsed for an entire evening. I played Linda. I insulted her. And Kate practiced answering without emotion. The next Saturday came. The whole family was at the table. Linda scanned the room like a predator and began her attack. "Kate, I see you bought a store-bought cake. A real housewife should bake herself, not grow hands from somewhere else." The table froze. Everyone waited for tears. But Kate, calmly, looking into her plate, in a flat voice, like an answering machine, said, "Yes, Linda, this cake is from the store," and kept chewing. Linda choked. She didn't get the reaction she wanted. She tried again. "And my grandson got a bad grade in math. That's because you don't study with him. Your job matters more to you than family." Kate raised empty eyes and answered just as blandly, "That's unfortunate. It happens." Linda grew angry. She raised her voice. She started hitting Kate where it hurt most: parents, looks, weight. But Kate had turned into stone. To every attack she replied, "I hear your opinion. Maybe you're right." All right. No aggression, no sarcasm, nothing. After 20 minutes, Linda was red, not from pleasure, from rage. She ran out of fuel. For the first time in years, she went quiet. For the rest of the evening, she sat silently, complaining about a headache. Kate went home full of energy, calm, light, happy. After that, Linda almost stopped bothering her. "Who wants to bite a rock? Remember this: you are not obligated to be convenient. You are not required to participate in other people's performances. Your energy belongs only to you. If someone tries to provoke you, turn off the lights in your house. No one's home, only gray stones." Technique 5. Returning compliments. Now let's talk about compliments. Yes, compliments. Those sweet words we all crave, the words we dress up for, work ourselves to exhaustion for, try to earn. We're used to thinking that if someone praises us, it means they like us, that if they say something nice, they wish us well. But my experience, and the experience of those before me, says something else. Excessive praise is often the beginning of trouble. Technique number 5 is called returning the compliment. It's the art of not taking on what isn't yours. It's the ability to work like a mirror. Let's look at how this works. When someone gives you a compliment, especially a loud one, an exaggerated one, or an unexpected one, something subtle happens. Your defenses drop. Criticism makes us tense. We raise shields. But praise does the opposite. Praise makes us relax. We melt. We smile. We open ourselves. "Yes, praise me. I really am that good." And it's exactly in that moment, when you're open and unprotected, that someone else's emotional program slips inside. Because behind the words, "What a beautiful house you have," there's often a hidden thought. "Why don't I have one like that?" Behind the words, "You're so lucky with your husband," there's often bitterness about one's own loneliness. The person may not even realize it. They may smile at you sincerely, but their subconscious sends a blow. This is what people mean when they say someone was jinxed by praise. Have you noticed this? You talk about your good health, and suddenly you get sick. You say your child sleeps perfectly, and that night they cry until morning. This isn't mysticism. It isn't magic. It's what happens when you absorb someone else's envy wrapped in pretty words. Technique number 5 exists so you don't have to carry that weight. You shouldn't accept the compliment directly. Saying, "Yes, I'm amazing," is pride, and pride makes us vulnerable. But you shouldn't reject it either. "Oh no, it's an old dress, I look terrible." That's the position of a victim, and you hurt yourself. Instead, you act like a wise tennis player. You gently but firmly Return the ball to the other side of the court. You make the compliment go back to the person who gave it. You shift the focus away from yourself. You make them the source of that goodness. If the compliment was sincere, goodness returns to them. If it was mixed with envy, their own envy bounces back, and you remain untouched. This is clean protection. Now let me tell you a story that taught this lesson once and for all. It didn't happen to my grandfather, it happened to our neighbor Monica. Monica was an incredibly beautiful woman, even in her 50s. She had thick hair, a graceful figure, and even when she went out just to buy bread, she looked like a queen. But Monica had a so-called friend named Diana. Diana was her complete opposite, small, fidgety, and extremely envious. Diana had a special talent. She knew how to praise in a way that made you want to wash afterward. She would catch Monica near the entrance of the building and start singing like a nightingale. "Oh, Monica, my God, look at you, that skin. Not a single wrinkle. Do you sleep in a refrigerator? And that coat? It must cost a fortune. You shine like a diamond. I wish I could live like you." And every time, listen carefully, every single time after such a meeting, something bad happened to Monica. A heel would break 5 minutes later. A headache would hit so hard they had to call an ambulance. Her wallet would disappear. Monica started to fear Diana. She avoided her, walked around the building from the other side. She understood that Diana was eating her beauty with envy. One day, while we were sitting in the courtyard playing dominoes, Monica burst into tears and complained to my father. "I don't know what to do," she said. "She's killing me with her love. I can't be rude to her. She's always praising me." My father smiled and said, "Monica, you're accepting a gift that's ticking like a bomb. Stop holding it. Give it back." "How?" Monica asked. "Next time she tells you how beautiful you are, don't say thank you. Tell her she sees beauty because she has a beautiful soul herself. Make her responsible for the compliment." A few days later, I saw this with my own eyes. Diana appeared from around the corner. She spotted Monica in a new silk scarf and immediately smiled that predatory smile. "Monica, what a miracle! That scarf makes your eyes look so blue, like an ocean. How wealth suits you. I can't stop looking at you." Monica froze for a second. I saw her take a breath, but instead of the usual embarrassed "thank you," she looked Diana straight at the bridge of her nose. She smiled warmly and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Diana, dear, that's only because your heart is so kind. Your eyes are so pure. Only a bright soul like yours can see so much beauty around. May God give you back twice what you wish for me." You should have seen Diana's face. She choked. Her face went red in patches. She started coughing like she had swallowed a fly. She expected Monica to melt and give her energy. Instead, Monica placed a mirror in front of her. All that hidden envy, wrapped in sweet words, bounced right back. Diana muttered something unclear. Yes, of course. I forgot I left the iron on." And she practically ran away into her building. From that day on, Diana stopped pouring out compliments. She began greeting Monica briefly, politely, and Monica's headache stopped. Her heels stopped breaking. That's how it works. When someone tells you, "You're a genius," answer, "That's thanks to the amazing people around me." When someone says, "You've lost so much weight," answer, "Thanks to kind words and good wishes like yours, I'm holding up." When someone says, "You have such wonderful children," answer, "They're drawn to good people like you and learn from them." Redirect it. Don't let praise settle on you. Dissolve it in the space. Become transparent to flattery. If the person is kind, they'll be glad. If they're not, they'll burn on their own heat. Either way, you stay safe, and you keep your gold. Technique 6. The pebble in the shoe. There are moments when your success can't be hidden. Silence won't help. You can't pretend nothing happened. Everyone can see it. You show up in a new car. You lose weight. And it's obvious. You get a serious promotion. You move into a noticeably better place. At that point, you become a walking target. You shine. And shine irritates people who are used to living in the dark. They look at you and think, well, of course, lucky guy. Everything works out for him. Money, looks, confidence. Even his shirt is white. Even his teeth are straight. Hard to even look at. Perfection provokes aggression. That's a law of the jungle. If someone is too successful, they must be dangerous. It means they took more than their share, so what do? You can't hide. Pretending to be poor would look ridiculous. No one will believe it. This is where technique 6 comes in. We call it the pebble in the shoe. Imagine you put on new, expensive shoes. They're perfect. Everyone notices. Everyone envies. But now imagine there's a small, sharp pebble inside, and you start limping slightly. What happens? The envy disappears. People think, yes, the shoes are beautiful, but look how he's suffering. They're rubbing his foot raw. Irritation turns into relief. Sometimes, even sympathy. Your task is to create that pebble on purpose, to voluntarily find a small, relatable inconvenience inside your big success, and show it. You throw the envious a bone. People can't handle your total happiness, but they can handle your happiness if it comes packaged with a headache. This is balance. If you get promoted and everyone at work looks at you sideways, don't talk about money. Talk about responsibility. Say it out loud so they hear, yeah, the title is nice, but now I don't really have weekends. The phone rings at night, I barely see my family. Honestly, the stress is starting to hit my health. What happens in their heads? Envy deflates. They think, wow, that sounds like slavery. And suddenly your success doesn't feel threatening anymore. You stop being an enemy. You become a fellow sufferer. This is advanced social navigation. You manage other people's emotions by shifting the focus from your triumph to your inconvenience. You allow them to feel slightly better than you in one small way, and in exchange, they forgive you for being ahead in everything else. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Daniel. Daniel was brilliant, a gifted dentist. His hands were so light that patients fell asleep in the chair. Money followed him, naturally. After years of work, Daniel finally fulfilled a dream. He bought a large apartment in a historic building, high ceilings, original moldings, tall windows, old wood floors. It felt like a palace. So Daniel decided to throw a housewarming party. He invited childhood friends, former classmates, relatives. People walked through the rooms, and I watched their faces change. At first, smiles, then silence, then cold. Someone muttered, well, this isn't exactly a starter apartment. Another joked, guess dentistry pays better than we thought. Daniel stood in the middle of the living room, a glass of wine in his hand, and felt something slipping away. Not the apartment, the people. He saw envy replacing joy, resentment replacing warmth. He realized the evening was heading toward disaster. And then he remembered something the old men used to say. He remembered the pebble. Daniel set his glass down, sighed deeply, held his head, and said loudly so everyone could hear, "You're all looking at this place thinking I'm lucky, and I'm standing here thinking, why did I get myself into this?" The room went quiet. Curiosity replaced envy. "What do you mean?" someone asked. "This building is historic," Daniel said. "That sounds romantic, until you live in it. I can't drill into the walls without permits. The pipes are ancient. They clog constantly. Some things can't even be replaced. The walls are thin. The neighbor upstairs practices violin every morning at 6. Downstairs, there's an elderly woman with 3 dogs. I haven't slept properly in weeks." People started exchanging looks. The tension softened. Daniel kept going. "And the heating? You don't want to know. In winter, it's freezing. My bills are insane. Sometimes I honestly think I was happier in my small, quiet place outside the center. And that's when it happened. Someone laughed, not bitterly, warmly. Another shook his head. One friend walked over, patted Daniel on the shoulder, and said, "Yeah, man, beautiful place, but you bought yourself a serious headache." The evening changed. People relaxed. They ate. They drank. They joked. They didn't envy Daniel anymore. They felt sorry for him. And that sympathy saved everything. They went home thinking, "Yes, he lives beautifully, but I sleep better, and my walls don't hum with violins." Daniel kept his apartment, and he kept his friends. Later, he admitted, most of those problems were exaggerated. The pipes got fixed, the violinist moved, but that little performance saved me. That's how the pebble works. If you want people to forgive your success, show them that it hurts a little. Let your pebble be high taxes, an annoying boss, endless responsibility, back pain, allergies to luxury. Give people a reason to feel sorry for you, and they'll gladly allow you to be happy, because a happy person who suffers a little feels safe, feels familiar, feels human. And now, my friends, the most important part, the thing I warned you about. There is one thing almost all of us are carrying right now, in a pocket, in a bag, in our hand. It's a delayed action bomb, your phone. We live in a strange time. It feels like if you didn't post it, it didn't happen. You poured the foundation of a house, photo. You made a proposal, photo of the ring. You saw 2 lines on the test, photo for friends. And here's the hard rule my grandfather passed down: don't count the chicks while they're still in the egg. While the seed is in the ground, it grows. Quietly. But if you dig it up to show everyone, look how it's growing, the seed dies. When you show the world your plans, not results, but plans, you give away the energy of that outcome. You mentally live through the success. You get the likes, you get the comments, you get cheap dopamine, and after that, the world has no reason to give you the real result. You already consumed it in the comments section. The rule is ironclad. Talk only about what has already happened, what has settled, what has proven itself. You built a house, live in it for a year. Then show the fireplace. You had a child, raise them, then brag. Before that, your mouth stays closed, your phone stays in your pocket. Plans love silence. Growth loves darkness. Quiet. Let's sum it up. We've seen that talking too much isn't just a habit, it's an energy leak. We learned not to name exact numbers, so we don't hand out access codes to our lives. We learned to soften success, so envy doesn't turn into aggression. We learned to become greystones for emotional vampires. We learned to return compliments instead of absorbing envy. We learned to hide weakness when we're sick, so recovery isn't slowed by pity. We learned to say no without excuses, so our boundaries stay intact. And finally, we learned to stay silent about what hasn't happened yet. The deeper meaning is simple. A full barrel makes no sound. Only the empty one rattles. When you keep quiet about your happiness, you protect it, like a sacred flame inside a temple. Not everyone is allowed inside, not in dirty shoes. Become that full, quiet vessel. Store your gold. Don't scatter it. And now, I invite you to watch the next video on this channel. Until next time.